I see you. Try not to stay quiet. Today I'll ask you a lot of questions. All right. So in our last lesson, we were talking about the what? We were somewhere here, right? We were somewhere here, and we talked about this, the role of merchandising in e-commerce. Did we talk about this? Did we talk about the main elements of e-commerce? Okay, so I believe this is where we ended, right? Yeah, this is where we ended. Okay, so what are some of the things you remember in our previous lesson that we discussed on e-commerce? Can someone help us with some of the things they learned in our previous lesson? Anybody? Maybe a lady and a guy, or a guy. Someone can stand in for the guys and let us know that the guys are there. Someone can also step in and be the savior for the ladies. Let's go. Anybody? Anyone? I want us to know that we are following. Okay. So please let's do it quickly and then we move. Okay. Can someone say at least some few things, okay, or something that they picked from the previous lesson?
Okay, so I picked from our previous lesson the difference between e-commerce and e-business, and we said that e-business, from what I picked, e-business is the whole embodiment, where e-commerce is an entity. In other words, a subset of e-business. E-commerce has to
Wow.
do with the exchange of goods and services between customer and providers. Okay, and that's the business and then customers, and then vice versa, and sometimes between customers and customers over the internet. And
Wow.
whilst
That's beautiful.
e-business, yes, whilst e-business embodies everything, any
Everything.
transaction that is done. Yes, please.
Wow. Uh, who will step in for the ladies to 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 come in and save the day for the ladies on what they may have picked up even from session one? Okay. Uh, Anybody? Even from slide one, sorry, because session one's content is a lot. Anybody? Well, another guy can step in for the ladies. If you want to be a gentleman, I mean, it's allowed. It's allowed. Mr. Jekum, will you be the gentleman for the ladies? Are you the one,
Evans,
the ladies?
about this one, you said ladies, so I think the boys there, we have finished our own already, so we are waiting for the ladies.
Hey,
If I speak behalf on them, it could be like I'm a lady, so I don't want to tell lady, right? Let's wait for them.
oh, okay. Wow. I thought you would save them. Yeah, rather pushing it on them that, or what men can do, women can do better. So, uh, oh, all right. But that's a great pickup. Throughout this particular area, the main thing to look at from this is the differences between the two. You will see that throughout this side, these things are highlighted more and more. And you saw the repetitive nature of the content that we were coming across, right? And so it is necessary that we look at these ones as it is, and going forward, we would know other things from these two main topics. So we are talking about it has been the concept on e-commerce vis-a-vis the the e-business. And so once you know where the order is coming from, and then you know the contents thereof, and then you understand the contents inside of it, then you'll be able to know any other topic. So this is how you can summarize your learning, all right? And you'll be good to go. The rest would be added stuff, all right? Like the details of the B2B, B2C, they will be all under. So everything now, everything we are going to do now is going to be under e-commerce. So we are zooming in on the e-commerce, even though we are still under e-business. So if you understand the contents like that, you will know that, okay, it's a tree, and this one is coming from the tree, and this one is a branch of this side. So as we are moving on, I want you, in order for you to understand it better, right? I want you to create in your mind's eye or in your brain like a tree of the main topic, all right? And you see the branches from the main topic, and then you see the various tree or the tree that would be made from the various branches. So you see where e-commerce belong, which will be under e-business. And then you see that B2B or the elements of e-commerce, which will be the main types of the e-commerce, would be the various elements, right? Which is B2B, B2C, C2, and so on and so forth. Those ones would be also under e-commerce. There will be another topic, and then based on that, we'll also determine where they belong. And then with that tree, you would understand everything perfectly now that you have the foundation. And so with this, I'm going to move very, very fast. Okay, if you don't understand something, draw my attention as usual. Those who have been reaching out privately on the questions, okay, keep it up. That's great. It shows that you are following and you are learning a lot. All right, and keep that up, and you truly get the extensive side of what we are doing here. All right, and so I encourage that a lot, and so that's amazing. Keep it up. Wow. So today we are starting off with the main elements of e-commerce. Zooming in, we have two main types of electronic commerce. So when we talk about e-commerce, we have two main types, right? So we will look at uh, the business to consumer, right? That's the one that I said B2C, right? So when we say B2C, sorry, it basically means what? Business to consumer. So we'll look at the types of electronic commerce. This one is part, and then the other one is what? The B2B is obviously business to what? Business electronic commerce. So business to consumer electronic commerce, business to business electronic commerce. So for the purposes of exams, all right, one of the things that this lecturer likes to do or loves to do, if I may put, is to try and trick students with questions, right? And so if you are talking about e-commerce and you are listing the types of it, you may have those types under e-business and even maybe an extended form. And so when you are naming them, remember to add the complete how do you call it, words of it. So for instance, don't just say business to consumer and you end it there. You should add that, because you are talking about e-commerce, you add business to consumer what? E-commerce, or business to electronic e-commerce, so that the lecturer would know or would confirm what you are talking about, would know that you mean what you are talking about. If it is session A, which is obviously going to be, they can bring these things and exempt electronic commerce. But you will see that, is it a repetition? Because they can bring business to consumer and then they'll bring business to consumer e-commerce. Do you get it? Because you should know that there's a larger there's a universal set, right? So where something may not belong. So I hope you are following and then you are getting these nuggets. It's going to help us a lot. All right. So we have these two main types of electronic commerce are subsets of the overall business processes in which a company might engage in. All right. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Please, the types of e-commerce, can't we have consumer to consumer?
Okay, so for the purposes of e-commerce, we have been given two types for now. Okay, we have consumer to consumer, and we are going to look at it through in this course, right? So for now, as we are moving, it will transition into other ones, and then you understand. Okay.
All right.
I'm not a fan of bringing things that are ahead in front. If you notice throughout my teachings, I try to, even the technical words, I try to use substitutes in the beginning and then transition into the technical terms. And so let's follow closely and we'll understand. All right. Is that okay, Mr. Abwaji?
Yes, please. That's fine.
Powerful. So we have the two types. Electronic commerce are subsets of the overall business processes in which a company might engage in. So basically, this is what we're talking about. So in the circle or in the figure, we have the business processes that support selling and purchasing activities. In the e-commerce environment. And so you have the business to business electronic commerce, and then you have the business to consumer, right? Electronic commerce. Okay, so we are looking at the types. So with the business to business, e-commerce may be classified by market, relationship, or technology. All right. The types of business you do belong to the type is determinant on the type of technology you are using, because the main driver of this whole business, right, online or electronic business, is the main infrastructure, technological tools, right? And so if you do B2B or a B2C, it will be determinant on the facilities you have. Are you getting it? So if you have the facilities, when we talk about facilities, it can be financial, it can be devices, technology that you have access to, it can be human resource. You get it? Or the materials you have. You see, and then you look at your product, right? And so when we talk about facility, we are looking at all these. And when we say technology is a determinant, what we are trying to say is that if you don't have access to, let's say, or you don't have knowledge, which is also recently have been added to assets, right? Knowledge has been deemed an asset now. So if you don't have knowledge on how to run a company like Jumia, you will see that you are likely to be a third-party agent if you still want to engage in the business, right? You are likely to be a third-party agent, or because you don't have the tools, you may be pushed to the side of a consumer, right, who is buying to do retail, right, not necessarily a wholesaler. So all these things are based on what you have access to. Do you have access to servers to store all the products if there are many, right? Do you have access to paying people for back end to keep the back end records and stuff, right? Do you have and to maintain your website or your app, You see, do you have access to money to pre-finance things or to do drop shipping? So all the access to these things will determine which type of e-commerce you would belong to, and this is what the first point is talking about. Then the next one is, well, e-commerce can also be categorized um, by the types of entities participating in the transactions, or what participating in the transaction or business processes. All right. So basically, the kind of how do you call it, entity you deal with. Okay, there are some entities or companies. When we say entities, we are talking about businesses. So what happens is that when you are operating a business, in if you are doing financial accounting, they'll tell you that your business stands in for yourself. Okay, so what happens is that when you have a company, your company exists on its own as a separate person from you. So you are not the company. Your company is a different person. Let me put it that way. Your company is always a different person from you. This is why people, if your company has an issue, they don't have to sue you. Anybody who sues you for the reason of an offense from your company, you are not totally entitled to it if you didn't involve certain personal things, personal financial distance in it, because it is known in business or in the law that your company is a separate person. You get me? So if they will sue you, it will not be possible. They will have to sue the company if there is any um, offense by your company. You get it? So it's the company that they will sue, and we've seen that in so many cases, right? There are clauses to that, and it's not advisable to go into that. I just wanted you to know why businesses are entities, okay? And so when we say entities, this is basically what we mean. So just organizations, all right? Great. So the kind of organization you engage in your business or your transaction, right, will determine the kind of type you belong to. So there are certain organizations, they are only involved in dealing with wholesalers. And these people, they don't deal directly with the consumer, the one who will use the product and not sell it. You get me? The one who is at the end of the whole chain. They don't deal with the person. There are some companies who deal in that. And so this goes to explain what they are talking about here, that the type of business you deal with will determine, and the transactions involved will determine which type you belong to. So obviously, if you belong to those who don't deal directly with consumers, and you will go and deal with consumers, that means that you are not the consumer. That company is also not the consumer. Both of you are entities. And so you can see right there, there's a business to business relationship, right? And there are some companies who would deal directly with the consumer, right? We are going to look at all these things, right? We have even websites that sell from consumer to I think there was this website that came up, was it OLX? And I think GG2 when they came, where is it OLX or something else? There was a company that came. They said, if you have a product, you are the consumer. You have used the product for a very long time, but you just want to let it go. You get it? To get some money on yourself. You can just take it and then put it there and sell it to another consumer. So over there, you have established a consumer to consumer business relationship. But for the purposes of your studies, this is why they mention the two main ones, right? Which was what? Business to business and then business to consumer. So you see that we are now coming in, Mr. Boaje. So, so in other words, who you deal with will determine the classification of your of the type of e-commerce you are engaged in. Are we following? So it is known that one company can't always or not necessarily belong to a particular type. So just because today you are dealing with a consumer doesn't mean tomorrow you cannot deal with a business. The person who is engaged in consumer to consumer tomorrow may find a business that may be interested in what they are selling. And that is when they establish that route, okay, where a consumer will reach out to a business. Okay, are we following closely? Are we following? So, you see people mention, oh, I'm a B2B, B2C, C2C. And sometimes it's funny when you look at it because if you just mention these two main ones, um, sometimes it covers all most times, all right. So it's just that people find it, they just want to occupy space in their CVs. As a recruiter, sometimes when you look at it, you will just know. And so the recruiter, these are some of the things they look at too, and they skip your CV. Okay. So I hope we are following. So the type of person you are reaching out will determine the type. But then again, these are the two main. The two main are which ones? Business to consumer, business to business, business to business. So keep this in mind because they can ask you the types of e-commerce and what are the two main types. You get it? And there are some differences there. So when they ask you two main types, you can go B2B, B2C, C2C, C2B. B2B. So when it begins with a B, you have a B2B, and then it still continues with the beginning of a B to a B2C. And then when you want to continue with the beginning of a C, you can have a C2C, just like you had a B2B. And then you can continue from the beginning of a C to the next phase of a C, right, into the C to B. So at the top, we have what? A B2B. And then we have the next one, what? A B2C. And then we have a C2C. And then the next to it is what? A C2B. You see, So based on the understanding that I've given you, you see that now explaining or seeing this is very easy to grasp, right? Awesome. So this is why I didn't want to talk about it earlier. So others include social e-commerce. Those ones are based on the various pages we find ourselves. And but you see, most of these things, there was a research by one of the professors of these well-known schools, I think about in Harvard or so, where they were talking about this, that you see these main types over here, these types over here, B2B, B2C, C2C, consumer, C2B, all these ones, any other ones are all under these ones, no matter the place. So it's not the place that determines it, but it is who you are dealing with that determines. Anyways, so but these are the other ones: social e-commerce, mobile e-commerce, which is also known as the m-commerce, and then we have the local e-commerce, just for extensive learning purposes. All right. So that is it. Four main categories of e-commerce, right? These are the four. As I said, these are the ones that you should focus on. All right. Business originates from. Hello. Are we safe? I'm Monica. Was it Madam Monica?
No, please.
Are we safe in the nation?
You're safe, sir.
For you to unmute yourself to laugh and then mute yourself back, it's a bit.
Is it me?
It's a bit powerful. Okay, so I wanted to know if we are safe in the country. Okay, so the four main I keep admitting this person. He keeps going out and coming back. Admin, please. I think let's look at it for me. Right. Okay. So back to the screen, all right. So talking about the four main categories of e-commerce: business originating from business to consumer, as I've explained. The B2B, where the one that reaches the consumer. So if it's reaching a consumer, who is it coming from? Is it from a business or is a fellow consumer? And if it is reaching a business, who is it coming from? Is it coming from a consumer or is from a fellow business or is another entity? You get it? So this is basically what I was explaining some few minutes ago before the laughter came in. All right. Main types of e-commerce and description. Forgive me for my background, okay? I live in a zongo, so if you are listening and you have the ability to buy estates, okay, know that your fellow estate agent is here and would love to relocate. Hey, Lord Jesus, help us. So the business to consumer, the description, as we all know, businesses sell products or services to individual consumers. Business to business, sell products or services to other businesses. Consumer to consumer, individuals in online markets buying and selling to each other. Business to government. So when you see these ones, you know that business to government, that one too is there. Businesses selling goods and services to state agencies or the government. All right. So when you see a B to gene, as soon as you see a B to gene, you should know that this is what we are talking about. You know, there are some people who pitch businesses to the government and they make huge sums, even though that one is a very Herculean task to attempt. Okay. Yeah, we all know what happens in Africa here. For you to get a contract in the government alone, it's a whole thing on its own. So yes, but just know that we have the business to consumer side, business to government. All right. So these ones are repeating themselves. So we skip types of e-commerce and examples. Guys, these ones are very easy. You know. Then we move. Types of e-commerce and examples refers to full spectrum of e-commerce that occur between two organizations. See the same thing here repeating. See, you see. So based on the explanation, you can see or know the examples or develop the examples yourself based on modern companies, right? So some companies may shift their focus from attending to consumers to businesses, right? Some may shift focus to doing both. Okay, so you may classify some companies under a B2C, but they may be also performing B2B. There are so many companies who do that. If you are attending to the consumers yourself, you should know that if you are also engaged in a B2B, which is a business to business, which may be centered on your wholesalers or those who help you reach out on a broader note, then you are collapsing their business. If you are doing a B2B and a B2C with the same product, some may engage in B2B and then a B2C with a different type of product. That one, it will not affect it, because what the product or service you present to the B2B side of your customers, right, is different from the customers on your B2C side, right, of your customers. You see, let's say you sell Apple to your B2B side. You sell the apple fruit to your B2B customers or clients, and then you are selling both loads. They all look round, but their targets are different aspects of the business, right? And so with that, it may not affect. But just a side note over there. So please note that. So because we have people who are just interested, oh, if we are into this, then hey, then I want for a company to be specialized in B2B only. I want to be doing no. You need to know your consumers so that you know how to strategize. But hey, some companies, they like to mafia their wholesalers. So these are a repetition of what we are talking about with examples. So B2C obviously refers to exchanges between business and consumers. Business and consumers. Exchanges between business and consumers, B2C. C2C, which is consumer to consumer, also known as P2P or peer-to-peer. Okay, peer-to-peer. We are all co-equals. There are some people who also call B2B peer-to-peer, and I was surprised when I heard that. But if you look at the analogy that they used, it's the same thing though, right? Because a business would doing business with another business, and they peers, they are also peers. So when they say B2P, you need for them to clarify. But for the purposes of your exams, know that C2C is peer-to-peer, all right? For the sake of your exams, all right? But for extended purposes outside school, you should know this, all right? So these are some of the companies engaged in the B2B free markets. Dell, you can't walk to Dell you can't walk up to the Dell office, the factory, and say you are buying one. Either will access your brain, and then the security will walk you out, or they will lock you up for further studies. So basically they reach out to the supply lines or the chains that they have, and they distribute it to their various distributors, right? Or accredited, is it accredited? Licensed distributors across the world. Okay, so this includes purchasing, procurement, supplier management, inventory management, channel management. Normally the B2B, most of them are not really only products. Most of them are services. So a business will go and render services to another business. Like, let's say Jobberman.com can say that, oh, we are approaching Jumia, which is engaging in e-commerce to recruit people for them. All right, to recruit people for them, and so they are engaging with another business. All right. So it over there, it has to do with outsourcing, okay, of people to another people, right? They recruit and then for them. So over there, it's not products directly, but it engages in service rendering. And then you also have procurement, right? It may not be the product itself, but the raw materials to use to engage in the product. You see, they produce things to sell online, but they are paying for the raw materials for the production of that particular product. And so those people that they will pay to bring the raw materials, which is not the product for the final consumer, you are using it for the production of a product. And so over there, business deals with another business, and they are normally partners of the businesses, right? Where agreements have been made, and then they run it as and when they are needed, and each side benefits, right? Awesome. So, if you want to be a successful e-commerce entrepreneur, you know the kind of partnership you engage in to also benefit from that side. Consumer, and with that, you have business to consumer too. We have Amazon, Yahoo, and then Charles and Schwab and Company.com. Charles Schwab Company and Company, right? And then we have peer-to-peer exchanges involve transactions between and among consumers. These can include third-party involvement, as in the case of the auction website, eBay. So with the eBay, whether it's an auction or not, with eBay is like what we have here in Ghana, like Gigi. It is known for a lot of how do you call it, home used items. Auctions are there too, where you can partake in auctioneering of products and make bidding and see if your bid is approved for purchase, right? Awesome. It is very nice to watch these auctions being run. Try get them and watch them and learn some few things, right? It's great. It's a great learning process. Okay, so let's move on. With e-commerce, what's the history behind it? So there we have EC applications first developed, which is EC for e-commerce. Okay, e-commerce applications first developed in the early 1970s. So before Amazon, which blew up, came about, there were some other ones that were trying to do some few things, right? And electronic funds transfer, right? Limited to large corporations, financial institutions, and few other daring businesses. So because people didn't trust each other, it wasn't really to the public, general public. It was just B2B, business to business, large corporations who knew themselves. You do investigation about me, I do investigation about you, then we do the transaction. It was like that. Financial institutions too were involved in it. They began it. The banks dealing with other banks. Where the banks too, they have their own type of network. Those who joined my session on how the internet works, we talked about some of these things, right? How the banks have their own the private networks from the telcos that they use and are able to communicate among themselves and perform transactions, right? And so these things were being done already, but on a bigger scale for larger corporations, right, or institutions. Oh, yeah. So, and then let's look at how it evolved, how it changed over time. So, in the electronic commerce business phenomenon has had an interesting history from humble beginnings in the mid 1990s. Electronic commerce grew rapidly until 2000. So when the internet broke in, I think from 1999 thereabouts, someone can Google for us. It brought this whole idea of the business to business, which was already pending, right, in a different way, being done in a different way. The internet, which was a worldwide connected list of networks all over the world, it brought all people together all over the world, people from all over the world together to have access to each other. And this opened up the idea of the e-commerce, because if everybody is now on a particular network and not just the private network for banks, then we have business opportunities. And so some people saw it as how come some people saw it as a big time business opportunity. And so you saw the likes of Amazon jumping in, eBay and the rest, right? They jumped in. So those who jumped in very early, most of them are the successful ones, or the big, or the giants who are now dominating the market, because when the others were afraid to join, right? They were so afraid to join because, hey, what is internet? With this internet, see, people even said it is the end of the world. And so there were so many negative news on the internet, and then let alone, because if we didn't even trust the internet, the concept of internet, then how would you trust someone who didn't know themselves, someone who didn't know another person who was selling something in another continent? You see, if businesses were finding it hard to communicate or trust themselves, then people didn't see it as a secure way of transacting business. So people were still stuck with the face-to-face. Some people find it hard to change, to join a movement for change. Or why do I sound like a politician? Oh, yes. People find it very hard to join a change, when there is time. The time has come for them to do so, right? And so, hey, this noise. Pacho, why mitizongo? Why am I here with mitizongo? Is it a zongo? It is not, though. Anyway, so yeah, so a lot of people were finding it difficult to join the movement, and so they waited. Big companies waited, and they failed to grab the opportunity. And so you saw company. You see, anytime, this is for all IT people, all right, professionals. You see, our field it's so how do you diverse and unpredictable, that you see, when a slight change comes and you don't adapt to it, before you realize, in the next few years, you are left behind. So you have to take notice of this. Some companies failed to catch along the wave when it came, and they were left behind. These ones were huge, like, companies that were doing a lot of things, right? But when there was a new wave of new stuff or technologies coming in, they failed to join in the bandwagon, and they were left behind. Okay, so those ones who took the advantage obviously are the giants now. All right, so the electronic commerce has come a long way from the 90s, the mid 90s, joining in the 2000s. So by 2000, when the internet was created, 2000, 1999, 2001, 2003, it became a phenomenon. It became something that was the Asian town, right? And so you saw people like Mark Zuckerberg by that time, who were in school and all that, try to prepare themselves to launch Facebook, which was a school platform by then, right? So, hey, it is what it is. So, however, beginning in 2003, electronic commerce began to show signs of a profound rebirth. Yes, like I said, at that time, the internet has stepped in 99. And so by 2001, 2000, 2001, by 2003, it was a worldwide thing, right? Whether you like it or not, it had come to stay. But there were stubborn companies, individuals, and authorities, and some nations too as well, governments also. Yeah. So began to show signs of profound rebirth. So it was already existing, but the internet brought it out. All right. Because there was the advantage was that now you are reaching to a larger market, not a limited group of people who should have money to have private networks for you to enjoy connections, but now a complicated network of people who necessarily do not have the power in government, but the average people in the communities could have access to also these networks and also communicate among themselves. That's when businesses jumped on. And so as the economy grew, electronic commerce also grew, but at a faster pace. Because obviously, if now you have a lot of people, it means you have the chances of reaching out to a potentially greater market, right? And therefore, it will correspond to probably a good or a huge profit. And so in the general economic recession, which was in 2008, where the world economic crisis were coming in, a lot of governments were facing a lot of problems. By then, electronic commerce suffered far less than most of the economy because a lot of them were finding it difficult to transition. Now, there were a lot of businesses that were being done in the reason I'm giving, you see, sometimes when you are reading these things, it's very difficult. You now have to keep dates in your head, specific dates. But if you're giving the background story, you are able to relate and then remember, right? Because again, your mind works by association. If your mind can't associate to it, it will not remember. That's why I'm giving all these background stories. All right. So in the general economic recession, so in 2008, when the world was going through the economic meltdown, a lot of things were happening, going down and all that. But this e-commerce thing kept rising. It wasn't really affected. Okay, because government hadn't accepted it into their economies, there were a lot of transactions that were not being taxed. You get it? A lot of transactions were going out of the government's supervision or regulation. They were not organizations in charge of these new areas that have sprouted out. So in what I'm saying is that with this, you know that, for instance, it's just like the way cryptocurrency has come. And initially, in some governments, they are not, they don't have special regulatory bodies who would handle them. And so people are using it to do money laundering because they will buy dollar and they will not buy it through banks. And so they will use it and buy the dollar through the crypto, and then they will hoard it. And when the dollar goes up or down, they make their money or make their losses, right? Depending. If you look sharp to you withdraw. Okay, so this is how this is the same thing that was happening in that era, where regulatory bodies like Bank of Ghana, for instance, that is regulating banks in this country, and also financial affairs, right? Whether deposit or commercial, right? So these bodies were not there. So transactions were now passing through that side, right? A lot. People were doing what's that name? They were remits or what? The money transfers all over the world. Money transfers and all those things. They were doing all those things, and certain countries were not capturing that to make their records. And so they were losing a lot because the natural way or the normal way they were of recording, it wasn't passing through. And so they were losing a lot. People were fighting it, governments were fighting it, and so it wasn't really affected in that era a lot. All right, this was around 2008, thereabout, 2007. but the effect was felt in 2008, right? Electronic commerce has consistently, hey, I need to ask Madam Monica. So electronic commerce has consistently expanded more in the good times and contracted less in the bad times, right? So exactly, if the people have money, they, uh, they will make a lot of orders. If people don't have money, the standard of living is very, very high. The likelihood of buying so many products, the luxury of buying it is not there. Because that's when you see, if you don't have money, that's when you begin to complain of delivery fee. Hey, how much is your delivery fee? 20 cities, 15 cities. Hey, it's too high. Reduce it. Yeah, you see, but the thing is that if you have money, when they say 15 cities, you say, oh, bring it. I'll add 20 cities to it. It's a champion, I lie. And so the standard of living of the people will determine um, the success of the e-commerce industry, right? So basically, if everything is going on well with everyone, things will also go on. So early electronic commerce. So 1960s, mid 1960s to 1970s, what was happening over there? We are still looking at the history. So now we are grouping them. So in the mid 1960s to the 1970s, e-commerce meant the facilitation of commercial transactions electronically using technology. Commercial transactions, you see, using technology. Electronic data interchange, which is EDI, and electronic funds transfer, EFT, allowing businesses to send commercial documents like purchase orders or invoices electronically. So basically, these ones were between organizations. All right. So, and remember, they were also involved in the use of private networks and so on. And in 1980s, this is when people were test piloting the internet, right? Test piloting it. They'll come to your area or a particular state and then deploy it and see the reaction of the people. So things were changing small. So in 1980s, what happened? The growth and acceptance of credit card came in. So that was the transitions. So from the EDIs and the EFTs that were being used in the 1960s to 1970s to now the credit cards, which involved the use of a card where you would keep your funds in, and then if you're able to continuously keep an average amount of money for a particular period, it will be graded. You'll be graded, right? So basically, you'll be graded, and then graded how? So graded in the sense that you'll be placed in a category of someone who is credit worthy in a certain capacity. So you may have a threshold based on your average of the monies you keep in your account. You can be pegged at someone who is likely to have, let's say, $6,000 in your account every 2 months. You have $6,000. So certain people like that, if they want to purchase things like $20,000 and they don't have money on their credit card, they will not be able to buy. But if let's say they want to purchase something around $4,000 or $5,000, since their average was or is set at what did I mention? Is it 6,000 or 7,000? They will be able to have access even though they don't have money. That's how that system works. Okay, and so yeah, this is what the American government, in partnership with some private entities which run the economy, I said it with passion, and they should listen. Which ran the economy, decided to do. You see, some people say, "Oh, wow, Americans they think about their nationals a lot. When they go to the different country, something bad is happening. They are thinking about them. They don't want to die." Yes, you can think of it in two ways. Most of them they buy a lot of things in credit, and they are owing the government so much money. That's how come they're able to buy brand new cars without cash. And so on. They pay small because they know the kind of money that come to you every month, the money that flows to your card. You see, so when you travel, what if you die? You will not be able to pay the money. We have to chase your children, eh? So we need to care for you. This account, even if they go south, you can choose to think however you want to think. But I mean, that's how I look at it. Anyways, that's just a story there. Anyway, so the growth and acceptance of credit card, 1980s. All right, that was just a chip in there for us to remember this site. 1980s, the credit card, automated teller machines also came in, telephone banking, airline reservation. This is where they all began to step in. You see, on this side of the world, they came in later. And when they came, we were still on the papers. The papers there, it took some bold politicians to chip in with, I think, His Excellency John Ajay Kufuor introduced the Ghana card. Is it Ghana card? Yeah, that card, long time ago. And then I think a change of government didn't use it, and so it was dormant for a very long time. We went back to the old system of the voters' ID card, representing nationals, a whole country. Wow, that's powerful. As national IDs, and we're boldly using the ID card for banking transactions. Hey, it shows you how politicians are very powerful in this country. But God being so good, it has been changed, and there's a new direction in this country, right? So, hey, it is what it is. So it took some time before it got to our side, but hey, in the 1980s, people were already enjoying them. Automated teller machines, telephone banking, airline reservation, this all stepped in the 1980s, right? But in the 1990s, the internet commercialized, right? And users flocked to participate in the form of dot-coms, right? So this was the preparation of the internet where people were fighting for domains and people fought for the right spot. Now, if you want to get a very simple website, they'll tell you to add certain names to it. If you want a particular domain, someone has already chosen them. So the internet, like I said earlier on, 1990s, innovate applications. So if the internet has come now, then the web-based application tool will step in. So that's how come they stepped in. The innovation applications ranging from online direct sales to e-learning experiences. That's when even people started transferring books to digital formats. Ancient documents people started digitalizing things, right? Or yeah. So that was the 1990s, early part of the internet, and now when we entered in the 2000s, it was a new millennial, right? And everybody, like, imagine you have been in the 90s, and you have even personalized how you even say the 90s, 1990. Imagine how they used to say it in those times. And now you've entered 2000. Imagine we entered 3000, the year 3000, and your great grandchildren who may be in 3999 entering into 4000, or 2999 entering into 3000, how they will feel. And so there was a whole euphoria, and the introduction of the internet made it a little bit perfect, right? And so many European and American business companies offered their services through the World Wide Web, right? Since then, people began to associate a word, e-commerce, okay? This is when the word was introduced. So you can be asked, when was the word e-commerce? In which year was the word e-commerce? The word e-commerce, so not e-commerce, but the word e-commerce introduced. But if they ask you when was e-commerce introduced, you get it. It's a different thing altogether, right? So note how these patterns of questions may be asked. We are going to look at some past questions in our next session on these topics we have treated so far, and then we'll treat them. All right, let's move on. What is the time? Okay, we have some few minutes. Let's continue. So growth of e-commerce. I'm coming. Let me give the forum. If you have any question at this point before I move on, please let me know. Any question? Any question? Sir Joe, Sir Abuaji, Mr. Freeman, Mr. Jekum, Mr. Nan. Any question? Mr. Nia. Hey, Mr. Nia, I thought you were called Noah, or I didn't spell your name well. Okay. Mr. Pia. Sir Joel, Sir Jed. Any question? Or we should move on. Okay, I'm not being heard at all. I'm not getting any feedback, or I'm alone. Aye. Hello. All right. I see some two hands saying
You should move on.
we should move on. Now someone says we should move. I guess it was Sir Jed, right? Okay, so yeah, let's move on, as our brother says. Okay. All right. I'm trying to. Okay, so growth of e-commerce, 1995 to 2003. So a continuation of the history. So what happened? Beginning in 1995, with the first widespread of the use of the web to advertise first sales of banner and advertisements. Okay, depends on where you went to school. To advertise first sales of banner advertisements products. Hey, bro, for being beginning in 1995 with the first widespread use of the web. Okay, so during that time, like I was saying earlier on, that's when it began, the test phase. We are testing it, few people, we are advertising this. You know, when the product, before it enters the market, there are a lot of advertisement that needs to go out on the product. So with this one, the people who engineered the whole thing were all over the world pushing it because they saw the opportunity in it that is going to bring. So those people, they were thinking ahead. Those of you who joined my session on how the internet works, I think the video is available. You can look at that on the details of how the internet worked, how it was created, the engineering behind it and all that. I think it would be on YouTube also. Right. So first sales of banner advertisement products, e-commerce, people started using it to advertise their various stuff, right? E-commerce meant selling retail goods, usually quite simple goods on the internet. So they were selling books, basically. Most of them were selling books, simple things, you know, because there was issue of trust. And in those days, you know, a lot of books were not digitized or digitalized, depending on how you want to see it. Yeah, digitalized or digitized, right? So people were selling raw books, and it wasn't too valuable, and it wasn't expensive at all, actually. And so even when you buy and the seller doesn't give it to you, you lose, but you don't really lose much. people were buying some little things, right? The owner of Amazon would tell you that he began with books and he was selling books, and then he moved on to something, I think toiletries or something like that. Yeah, some funny things, simple things. All right, and there simply wasn't enough. Okay, so e-commerce meant selling retail, usually quite simple goods on the internet. There simply wasn't enough bandwidth for more complex product. Also, that was a challenge. All right, they didn't have the capacity to put more things, items on there as well. Right. Also because of the issue of trust. Okay, and there wasn't much security. A lot of people knew how windows were up to things because there were a lot of these Russian, that time there was tension among most of these giants, these superpowers. And so the Russians by then wanted to prove their mettle, right? And so they made it a habit to crack a lot of softwares, a lot of systems that the US would do. And so most of these things were not secured. That's also one of the reasons why people were not really, and also pouring a lot in it. Okay. Marketing was limited to unsophisticated, but Russian hackers to their world. Wow. Uh, Anyways, marketing was limited to unsophisticated static display ads and not very powerful search engines. Unlike now, where even when the moment you start searching for something, the very thing you search for or the related topics will be suggested to you as products, right? Where people will be pitching very, very sophisticated search engines. Google, for instance, who likes stealing from people their details, privacy. For now, if you are listening in the future, it may not be so. Okay, so for now, they sell a lot of things with or without your consent, and so they already know what you need. And so when normally I pick people's phone and I see an advert of a particular thing, I know that this is something they are probably engaged in. And so when I pick your phone and I see betting, I know that this person, either you have been looking at it or you're a professional. Hey, Jesus. Let's continue. Marketing is limited to, okay, I've talked about that. My characteristics by its rapid growth, often called a boom. Yeah. Which was swallowed by a rapid contraction, often called the bust. So a boom means there is a growth in the industry. A lot of people are getting profits. Like people are chasing things like goods and services. Everybody is benefiting from the industry. But when there is a contraction and there is limited the availability of staff, right? And so people struggle to get things, and there's people are trying to hoard due to fear of or war, and when there's tension in the country, it causes a ripple effect on these industries, right? We are here in Africa, and some of these multinational companies, when they see that, like for instance, this Boko fight, then they call in and they say that, there's tension in the country, we can't do business, people will stay homes as a result, and they will not have money on themselves to do purchases, and it will affect company businesses. Like it has a whole ripple effect, right? And these multinationals, because they normally come in with this, I'm going to be in trouble saying this, with this IMF and all that, they'll give you the loan and tell you what to do, and they'll bring in their own people to manage the whole thing, and they cause your e-commerce industry to fall and make theirs rise. It is what it is. Hey, until we learn how to move out. And so I love what the this man is doing, and so let's see how it turns out, right? Let's see. Because I mean, let's see. No further comments. For example, e-commerce became fastest growing form of commerce in United States. For example, e-commerce became fastest growing form of commerce in the obviously, yeah, it will become fastest growing because you're able to check the number of transactions. And if you're able to check the number of transactions, it means that you have a system to check. And then if you have a system to check, it means that someone is taxing, or I can say, yeah, the tax so you can say taxing. Oh, I mean, several of the mama go caps why. To say Mr. Nsiamo, yeah, no mama west why. Pacho mama several of no why. Mr. Jekum mo. So they will check it and then they will be able to know because they were also taxing. By that time, they had regulators on the system because this is 95 to 2003. So obviously, by that time, they had quickly adjusted. But hey, they still didn't capture everybody because not every company would want.
Hello, Evans, you mentioned my name.
Hey, you are not hearing your name. I'm sorry. We have to move forward. So, not every company wanted to pay the tax, wanted to be under the umbrella of the government or the US government because these people will come and suck your blood, right? As people said. And so they were really hit. And also due to the decision of the then government who was investing heavily in the war, right? I think in Afghanistan also. So they were focusing on that rather than focusing on the transition in this era. Yeah, so the first wave of electronic commerce was predominantly a US phenomenon where pages were primarily in English. And so if you were in Russia, these people, they are always ahead though, but we don't hear anything from them. It's just the English. Because we speak English, we think everything is US. But these people were also ahead though. The first wave of electronic, but hey, let's doing extensive reading too. So let's get all the knowledge. Okay, so when it started, these were companies in the US. Because of that, everything was written in English and not any other language. So now, if you have a website, the whole world getting interested, we need to have French version, we need to have Russian, we need to have Spanish. You know, we needed to consider and involve the other languages into this world phenomenon, which was a wave by then. Okay, this was the first wave, the early wave is what we are still talking about. Electronic mail or email was used in the first wave as a tool for relatively unstructured communication. So, yeah, many companies took the strategy called the first mover advantage. Mr. Freeman, I've seen your message, okay. Many companies took the strategy called the first mover advantage. That is, investors believe that being the first website to offer a particular type of product or service would give them an advantage, an opportunity to be successful. Many companies took the strategy called the first mover advantage. Okay. So these were the early stages. As I was saying, those who jumped in early or earlier, they are the ones. Most of them are now big companies now. So as an IT professional who wants to enter into this industry or who is already into this industry, you should be aware of the new trends with regards to this industry so that when it happens, you'll be able to jump in it. You get it? You'll be able to jump in it and jump in quicker. And as you are into this business, or as you're about to enter this business, you should look at also having your own domain to also host your product on it yourself, right? Look at having your own domain to host your product on them, and then look at letting it reach your audience, the market, okay? And this is the beginning of normally great empires. Okay, so always look beyond what your competitors are looking at, okay? And these are the signs of the great e-commerce giants in the world. So this is just a summary of the first wave. So the first wave was from what? 1995 to 2003, right? The first wave of the e-commerce growth, all right? So we started off with the beginning in 1995 with the first widespread of the use of web to advertise, and then the first sales of banner advertisements, all right? And then it came to e-commerce, meaning to sell goods, retail goods, very simple retail goods, right? All in the first wave. And then we came to look at marketing, unsophisticated static display. Okay, we looked at which one is the boom, the concept of the boom, and then the bust, right? We also looked at the e-commerce came how the U.S. government basically adapted to the new phenomenon, and so on and so forth. And then we looked at the first mover advantage. Those entities that also moved in. Those entities that also moved in on the early part of the whole process. Okay, so this basically happened between the 1995 and 2003, and that's where we have the first wave of the e-commerce. Any question from here? Otherwise, we go to the second wave of e-commerce. All right. So with the second wave, any question? Okay, I've seen the message, sir. All right. Okay. So, yeah. But you are in the session and you are testing me at the same time on this. We can do this after the session. So 2004 to 2009 was the second wave of e-commerce characterized. Save me from Madam Monica, Mr. Jed, and Madam Erica here. She can do one test. 2004 to 2009, the second wave of e-commerce. They are ready to laugh at me. These people, they can laugh at you, you cry. Characterized by an expanding international scope, with sellers beginning to do business in other countries and languages. I was so focused on the articulation of the words. Characterized by an expanding international scope, with sellers beginning to do business in other countries. So the second wave, now that we are established, we are and we know the system, the ins and outs. Now we know about the potential of it already, and so we are looking at expansion. We don't only want to reach the people in our country or in our state. If we are in Georgia, we want to target Africa. Even if it's not Africa, I want to target Europe. In the beginning, if you are in Europe, you are targeting America. If you are in America, it's as if they were the only people in the whole world. So they will jump on top of Africa and go to their brothers. So the later they looked at Asia and countries, North Africa, South Africa, and some other countries, right? So this is how the second phase began. So now that we know what we are about, we want to expand. Companies wanted to go global. So we're looking at if you have a business and you've been operating in Ghana for a very long time, Now with this wave, we are looking international. What are the strategic plans we are doing on our expansion before other companies? Because these were the early movers. And so because they were there, you see, if you are dealing with face-to-face customers alone, and you think you are the boss in the country or the state, someone who is also doing a face-to-face interaction with the customers, right, but is not at par with you, but has joined this field, was having a lot of potential. So they would also, the lower ones would also project reaching out to other consumers outside the country or the continent. And if we reach, say, a country like China, for instance, see, they have billions of people living in the country. And so whilst you are looking at about 20 million people in your state or in your country, your competitor is also looking at this same 20 million in your country or state, but it's also projecting 2 billion additional. You see the thing, market, potential market outreach. And so these people, when you compare them in the next 5 years, if their plan works, can't put them on the same pedestal, right? And these were the signs of the second phase of the wave of the e-commerce industry. And so language translation and currency conversion were two impediments to rapid global expansion, right, of electronic commerce in a second wave, right? So now that we are crossing borders, now that our country is crossing borders through the internet, right? We need to have translators. We need to get people on board who help us to reach out to the various languages. So the world was becoming one. Either you switch to English language, or some countries like China were fighting for their lives because they don't like English or foreign stuff. So they have to survive by cutting off the internet. So as it stands, they use a different version of Facebook. They use a different version of YouTube. They use different versions of the common ones we use as at now. I think in so doing, they had to adapt and use it. Created the avenue for their country people to start, their developers to come up and create alternatives. And as of now, they have the alternatives. If you are there, you want to access Facebook and all that, you have to use the VPN to do that. You see, but languages needed to be translated and all that. So companies who are now reaching out to the world at large were engaged in that. This were normally the second phase, because if you've not gotten a root in the market or in that world of the e-commerce, you will not even look at language translation, right? So if you want to know the differences between the first wave and the second wave, you need to compare the differences between the two, and you know that one must begin before the other. And this is what you use to distinguish between the 1995 to the 2003 evolution, and then the 2004 to the 2009 wave, right? So we look at, although we look at that, right? Expansion of electronic commerce in a second. Yeah. So although businesses typically had broadband connections, most consumers connected to the internet using dial-up modems. Hey, who remembers this? Or we are all kids. Dial-up modems. Hey, you have to perform like basically works like a call where you have the internet connection through that. So when the core is established, you have internet, basically like an internet core in a way, anyway, that provides you internet. I don't know how to describe it. Anyways, so there were modems like that, establishes. I think this was before the advent of the APNs and the access points, Anyway, so all right, so the increase in broadband connections in homes is a key element in the B2C component of the second wave. increase in broadband connections in homes is a key element in the B2C component of the second wave. So, hey, this in this era, you could get internet connection via the cables. See the cable come to your house. Those days, when you see the cable, it's like heaven. When the cable is connected to your PC, you have internet. Too. All you need to see is that what's it? Cat6 cable going into your laptop, and then whether it was Cat5, Cat6, hey, you had it, and you are good to go with the internet. So you go to the internet center, or how do you call? I've forgotten the name of. Hey, Yahweh. If you came to meet it, you can mention the names, okay? To show that you've been here for long. Lord. Is it internet centers? No. We have computer centers. Hey, nobody will help me with their names. We used to have businesses like that all over the country. You could walk in
cafe.
Internet cafe, yeah. Internet. Oh, right. We use them really few. It shows you how time flies. It became a business. So people, just like very soon, the mobile money will be a thing of the past. It became a business. People were like, there were international companies that were a busy internet and all those people. There was one particular one at Circle. Yeah. These companies were massive. You go there, very organized. You go there, get internet. Hey, all of a sudden, people started getting internet. You can do even internet setting on your phone just by your access points, APN, manually inputted, and you are gone. Later, the network started sending them, and after that, it became automated on the SIM card. And so when it comes, you're already on it. Wow. All in the space of about how many years? Let's say 20 years or so. Yeah. So the only thing that doesn't change in this environment is the word change. And so as an IT professional, you want to open your eyes so that your business is always changing. You see, changing with the times and seasons. All right. Although business customers, unlike retail customers, have had fast connections to the internet for many years, the increasing availability of wireless internet connections increased the volume and the nature of B2B electronic commerce during the second wave. And also Mentias here. Also, the B2B electronic commerce during the second wave has done what? Increasing availability internet. Okay. So, hey, it's just like that. When the connection of the internet becomes more or readily available, as I was just saying, to the people, and it means more people, like everybody here, you and I, we represent the market. Oh, we are all potential buyers of something. You get it? Yeah. You need something right now. Yeah. You need food, right? You may order food. Maybe you want to buy water to drink, right? You want to buy bread. You want to buy whatever you need to, or you want to buy. Someone can have it online. So we are all potential buyers. That's the same way we are also potential sellers, anyways. But the likelihood of we being buyers is more than we being sellers, right? Yeah. So we are in a nutshell a market to the businesses. We are a market to the businesses. So the more people have access to the internet wirelessly through the phones and all that, that means that their market is also increasing. They have potential customers that they need to reach out to. So everybody on the internet is your market as an e-commerce venture. You get it? Everybody on the internet is basically your potential customer. So if there are 2 billion people on the internet or on Facebook, you want to use, that's why Facebook is mostly the right place for businesses. There was a company, they used me to get money for their customers in a month, right? Over just some small things. So online sales alone, within a month, over hundreds of thousands of monies generated for them, and they chop it like that. See that, so we can do it, right? We can also do it. It is possible. Hey, it is possible. Yeah. So yeah, that is it. So let's be how do you call it? Let's be like water. Whatever happens, we should be able to change and adapt to the systems. So yeah, that is it. In the second wave, B2C and B2B sellers began. So businesses were reaching out to businesses, right? Because of that, and it was more and more, right? Um, Businesses that jumped on later were now also increasing the market for the B2B side. All right. And then you have the B2C. So now the market is so huge or increased in a way that now you have more people who are consumers and you have more businesses also joining. So it makes that the types of so Mr. Champon wasn't here. So you have now that you had now that you had a lot of the market, like billions of people on the wave, it means that you had potential people, and each of them, like I was saying, everybody is a potential customer because we are all representing the market. Everybody has something to buy, but it's not everybody that can sell. So the more and more people we have on the system, the more likely we are able to transact business in what type that we represent, right? This was evident in the second wave a lot because more businesses joined, and so you had likely all the types of e-commerce engaging themselves. So whether it was B2C, B2B, they are all engaging themselves. All right, Web 2.0 group of technologies emerged. The second phase of the web in the second wave that made new online businesses possible. So if you were a web developer in the early phase, you would see that you need to upgrade yourself because a newer or a more efficient one was made, right, which had more bandwidth, right, for them to have access to more products, more people, and so on, new features and so on, right? So I think right now it's on what even HTML5, right? Or we have reached HTML6. Web developers, are you here? I think it's HTML5 now, or so. I don't know. So, but I think it's I learned HTML5, but I don't know about now. And well, because AI has come now, we don't care what has come. All you need to know is the basics, and then you use AI to do everything. Anyways, more businesses followed. So new capacities on things, more things would be on the internet, and so on and so forth. More businesses follow the smart follower smart follower strategy, an approach in which a business observes first mover failures. And so one disadvantage of being a first a first mover was that you would face all the challenges, and so when you are failing in some of them, the other one will come and join or was waiting so that people go first, and then they look at them who had gone in from afar and based on their mistakes to strategize. But the thing is that when you go into it and you make your own mistakes, you endure the mistake and you are closer to the mistakes and you know what you learned from it. if you look at the story of Amazon, he failed in some other things when he began with the business. The same thing with Alibaba. Alibaba failed in so many how do you call it, things in what he was selling in, that a lot of some of his workers left him. It was only one lady who left and stayed or so, and I think he has made that lady a co-founder also. He was telling about his story. Yeah. So most of these first movers, they endured a lot, but they learned from it, and because they encountered a lot of challenges, they knew where not to go. But if you stand from afar and you are learning, you will not learn everything. You get it? So the second movers, yes, they were quite successful, and they claim to have had the mistakes of the first movers, but they didn't learn everything. For the purposes of exams, the first movers failed. Some of them, a lot of them failed, right? And then they had to gather themselves back. Some of them didn't make it back. Others made it, gathered themselves. Others didn't make mistakes at all, right? So, but what helped the other people were that they didn't move in at once. The second movers, they had to watch from behind and wait. These were the people who were, we are not sure, we want to enter into it, we are not sure. So let's just watch those who are going. Let's see the mistakes they will make. And, but it's not every mistake you might see from the outside. Okay, anyways, so it is what it is, right? Yeah, so I think this is the end when large investments are no longer, okay, yeah. So I think this is the end of the second phase. We are out of time. Let me finish the third phase, a critical mass of mobile users. So this is when the phones joined in. So when Apple's reign on the phone side, a monopoly on the phone side after the first iPhones had dropped and so on. Now the Chinese generic ones also started coming until 2015, 2013, where Android was being standardized, and it became a standard for almost every phone or every phone manufacturing company, because instead of investing a lot in your own how do you call it, system to operate your machines, you will just go and pay some few monies to the Google company, and then they will install this thing on it for you, or give you access for you to install their engine on it for your devices. So where companies employ a separate department to create systems. So companies like HTC, they had their system. Sony Ericsson had their own engine that was operating their machines, and so on and so forth, right? You have to open separate departments. So when Google came in with the idea of having their systems, the Chinese phone quickly bought the idea, because nobody wanted to buy Chinese phones in those era because of the type of distance that they were using, right? It looks so some way. And so it helped to boost their distance. So you had more phones joining in because they started producing cheaper phones into the market, taking advantage of the Google contracts, and then capitalize on that to push a lot of cheaper phones into the market. So most people started owning phones. And then obviously the wave, again, a new wave came where the phones, the giants were sticking with their systems. HTC wanted to stick with their system and not join the Android move. They decided to use some few phones to join the move, and they became stubborn at a point. BlackBerry was sanctioned by the government because they had access to so many things. But up to now, top officials still use BlackBerry in the government. Yes, but they became stubborn at a point. No, they made the same mistakes of the people the same mistakes people were making in the anytime there was a wave, and they failed to catch along as well. And so during this era, a lot of phones in the system. That was one characteristic of the third wave. Phones, plenty. An increase in electronic commerce activity, a much increase. After now, the phones have been completely, soaked in the system. You have much larger markets to look at, to attend to. That's when you see companies opening continental, is it branches also, or subsidiaries all over, right? Awesome. Widespread participation in social networking. This when social media became, by that time, Facebook had gained grounds and moved from being in universities in the US to universities in Europe, and it was fast spreading among people even outside the universities and becoming a social place to meet. Yeah, hence the term social networking, and later became social media for us, right? Which has been an adopted name for the social networking platforms, increasing willingness to use them for advertising, promotion, and sales, right? So these platforms now brought even a good place for all of us to be meeting. So if the whole idea is to keep you in waiting, so the social networking platform keep you together. The whole idea is to hold you together in one place so that companies can reach out to you. Yeah. So if you can create a social networking platform, yeah, you are at liberty to do so, but make sure to advertise it very well and make sure not to do it alone as well. Okay, so this was when they started socializing, and TikTok and all those things, those ones also started coming up. Increased online participation. People were now really engaged. People were all over the place. It was a new environment, and people were exploring everywhere they needed to go. So this was the third wave. New people, new environments. People were overly excited. People were making losses because they trusted companies they needed to not to trust. Security issues in the third wave era heightened because there were more fraudulent activities now that we had a lot of people, including old people, joining, right? Increased integration of tracking technologies into the B2B electronic commerce and the management of business processes within companies, right? Mixing things together, right? And I'm tired. Right. So basically, this is the summary of the first to third waves. So I was trying in our next this thing, you will look at the comparison between the first, second, and third wave, which I've actually highlighted already. So these things we'll just jump, we'll just look at them, we'll highlight them, not go into details. I intentionally took my time to do this so that we get the whole concept. Now, anyhow you twist it, based on how I've explained it, you will know the advantages, disadvantages, which are the next things on the slides. If you go through them, you'll see that you'll come across the advantages, the comparisons, the similarities, advantage, and you look at dissecting them, disadvantages, and all that. All right. If there's any question, you can let me know, and then you'll be attended to. Any question? I told you I'll make it up to you for being late today. I think I was 15 minutes late, and so I added it up, and here we go. Any question? Any question, please? Any question? Ask questions. So, why is my phone touching itself? Any question? All right. So, if there are no questions, if you love to reach out privately, my doors are always opened as usual. Reach out and be attended to. I think I've elaborated into detail the history of these things. The idea was that if you know its extended meanings or explanations, you're able to compare which era, well, maybe was the best, or you could analyze yourself basically, and also know what advantage each era had over the other. Do you get it? What advantage each era had. So the first era, second era, third era, you know, you can just manipulate the differences among them. And that's why I did that. So we are going to jump a whole lot of things because now it will be repetitive. Some of the things will be repetitive and we'll jump and make sure we complete. All right? Awesome. So if there are no questions, my doors are always open. The questions are there. I have a pile of questions to ask. And so we'll do that in the session A. But because we have the assignments, I would hold on for now. But I'll load it and put the link on the premium page so that we can all have access to them. Okay. But I'll not close it. I'll give it up to next week. So after next week, it needs to be presented by Friday. So after Friday, the link will be closed. So you will not be able to do it. Then another set will come. But if you're able to do it, you test yourself, you know how you are prepared for the exam. Get it? All right. And these will be past questions that I'll be using. Okay. So on what we have learned, I'll not bring what we have not learned. Okay. All right. So thank you very much for being in today's session. It's been awesome having all of you putting on your best behaviors, even though some few people were laughing at me, or to me, or with me. I don't know which one, but said you were laughing at me or for me or with me. So they have to explain that. But until then, I'll see you in another session. It's bye for now. Bye bye.